What's up, everybody? Welcome to S.W.A.T MMA. We're smoking weed and talking mixed martial arts. This is episode number 87. My name is Jarrod. I'm here with Paul.
What up?
We're coming to you from the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. Today's episode, we're going to be talking all about the UFC's return to Fight Island, Abu Dhabi for back-to-back shows, one on Wednesday, one on Saturday on ABC. We're also going to be discussing some PFL news, some fight announcements across mixed martial arts, and a little bit on the BKFC's big Knucklemania show. Before we get into all that combat sports activity, let's dive into our weed of the week. All right, Paul, this week we are smoking on some new strains. We'll start 2021
Started off fresh.
Yes, no more of the big three that we ended the year with.
Yeah. You know what's crazy? I was looking at a lot of like weed of the year lists, and like the weeds we were smoking on last year were like actually pretty popular like throughout. Like GMO cookies was on there. We smoked a lot of that last year. You know, Gorilla Glue, but I think Gorilla Glue is one of those like universal strains that's like always going to be on there because everybody smokes Gorilla Glue. Like we've talked about before. Oh, sorry, GG.
Oh, GG number 4.
You know.
Yeah, don't want to get any lawsuit activity here.
But you know what I'm saying? It's like I feel like it's one of those situations where a lot of those weeds that we were smoking on they were kind of big everywhere.
Well, we got some Cinderella 99 today. That's a sativa hybrid. It's a cross of Princess and Cinderella 88. And prior to that, there was a lot of back crossing of a Jack Herrera strain, if I understand correctly. Some of these genetics on these both these strains today are a little bit hard to track down, but yeah. I think I've got that right. It was created by a guy named Mr. Soul of Brothers Grimm, and it was created specifically for indoor grow operations. So sativas, they tend to grow kind of skinny and tall. This one actually grows pretty short. It doesn't get over like 100 centimeters tall, specifically for indoor. Yeah. So that's pretty cool. We've also got some frosted apricots, which is an indica hybrid, which we've got in this joint right here. I'm going to pass that back to you. Yep. That is Irene apricots crossed with Slurricane number 7. Irene apricots is an Irene OG crossed with Apricot Helix. Apricot Helix is a 3-way cross of 707 Headband, San Fernando Valley OG, and Godbud. So that's just one half of the frosted apricots. The Slurricane number 7 is Do-Si Do, which we've had on the show several times, crossed with Purple Punch. So that's likely where that heavy purple comes in, because we were discussing this strain before the show, and you mentioned it doesn't really look purple, but then you ground it up.
Yeah, and then it's all purple. You know what's strange, too, is like if you go online and you look up this strain, because the genetics are so diverse and like with so many different strains, you get a lot of different companies that have it on there, show like how much THC is and all that bullshit, but then it's like genetics unknown. You know what I mean? And then also when you go through like Google Images and try to look up this strain, you'll find like 3 different looking strains. Like honestly, it's like sometimes it has a little purple on it, sometimes it's like we said before, it's kind of a little more orange on the outside, and then it has purple when you grind it up. But honestly, the smell does everything for you.
Yeah, it smells really, really nice.
Yeah, you guys can smell.
Oh, man, I got to tell you, dude, I'm glad that we're in 2021.
Oh, yeah.
Even though technically it doesn't mean anything.
Not really.
But
it's another day.
Symbolically, it's a new page.
Yeah.
So
turn it over.
Although MMA-wise, the year, as we discussed in our 2020 year-end award show episode, it was decent. It was pretty good.
Yeah, it was really like they never really missed a step.
But we're starting the year off here with a bang with this return to Fight Island.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
The Wednesday card, it is what it is. Everything's kind of focused a little bit more on the Saturday card, which is pretty interesting, being broadcast on ABC, which I'm not totally shocked by because I do believe that the Mouse owns that as well.
They do, yeah, that's why.
Yeah, so it makes sense that they could squeeze on there pretty easy.
Yeah.
I think if it does big ratings or even decent ratings, we're going to see it more often.
You know what I like what they're doing is they're taking Okay, so let me try to explain this. So, for people out there who only watch fighting, you won't understand this. But everyone who watches sports knows that on a Saturday at that time is usually when college football is on. College football just ended
Right,
last
it's
week.
on at noon
Yeah,
Eastern or Pacific. Yeah,
yeah.
it's on at noon.
College
Eastern.
football just ended last week. A lot of people don't want football to ever end. So naturally, like they watch that channel that time of day and are going to catch these fights. You know what I mean? People are used to sitting down at noon on a Saturday and watching a football game on ABC. So they're going to click on ABC and they're going to see these fights. It's going to bring a lot of people in, I feel like, more than usual.
I hope so. I don't know what kind of promotion they're doing for it because I don't watch ABC.
It's a big
so
fight,
I don't
though.
know if they're actively advertising it or advertising it on their other sports stuff. But
You know what? ESPN's gotten really good about, like, advertising the UFC and other small sports that they have on their platforms within their like broadcast. Because like even going back to last weekend and uh, like the CBS broadcast or not CBS broadcast, shit. The ABC broadcast for the college football and shit. They were talking about the Conor fight that was weeks later. So obviously they weren't doing this fight. But it shows that they're at least throwing those little ads in for the UFC and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
that's good. It helps the overall sport.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm behind
Get
it.
those eyes.
What's the ABC card headed by? It's Max Halloway versus
Max Halloway versus Calvin Kattar.
No, that's a good stand-up bout right there.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be a hell of a fight.
Kattar's got great boxing. He hasn't fought anybody of Holloway's caliber, of course.
Well, we're talking about a guy who's pretty much the champion of the world, and in some people's eyes, one of the greatest featherweights of all time, if not the greatest.
Well, I'm going to disagree with the pretty much the champion of the world, being as he lost a couple fights to Volkanovski. The last one, you can say it was close, but I mean,
Close. I thought he got robbed. The last one, I'm not being a hater here. I'm sorry, but I had to be. Like the last one was literally robbery of the year for every single media outlet there is. Every single one that did a robbery of the year, that fight got
Was it?
robbery of the year.
I don't recall offhand. I know it was controversial, but
Yeah.
I
Every
don't.
single one. MMA fighting, Bloody Elbow, all those MMA Mania, all those websites that did
Well,
them. All
honestly,
of them has that a robbery.
Max can go. He can call up. Who's old boy at 205? Dominic Reyes, and they can go out and have a beer and discuss how they're the uncrowned champs. But I mean, what really happened?
Yeah, I feel you.
You know what I mean? I mean, I get it. If I was like a hardcore ride or die fan, I'd be fucked up and mad too. But I'm just,
Yeah,
y'all
I
can
feel
sit down
you.
and call yourselves the uncrowned whatever. And Max is a stand-up guy. He's probably not doing that. But
Yeah,
I get it though. I get the point. It was
it
a
is
robbery.
what it is.
But
That's Max.
however, this is a step up for Calvin.
Oh yeah, coming off that crazy knockout of Jeremy Stevens too. That elbow.
I didn't think he'd win that fight. I thought Stevens was going to pop him. But.
See, if you really look at it too, Calvin Kattar should have won his last 4 fights because I think if that Z.B.A.T fight that he signed up for, that was a main event, was signed for 5 rounds, he would have beat him because it was a very, very obvious going into the 3rd round and throughout the 3rd round and late in the 3rd round of that fight that Z.B.A.T had nothing left.
Yeah.
And Calvin was completely the tides had completely turned.
Well, how do you think he'll do against Max?
See, that's why I look back at that fight and I look at this Max fight and I think they could be very similar because Max has like a longer style, kind of like how Z.B.A.T has, where he does a lot of good technical stuff. Like he throws a lot of punches down the middle. He's not one of those guys who throws tons of overhands or anything like that. Max is the kind of guy he breaks you down with his volume of jabs and jabs and combinations. And I feel like Kattar is kind of a little bit not to say that he waits too long, but he's a little bit more precise with his strikes where he'll take a few just to see what the guy's coming at him with, and then you'll see him kind of get going. That's why I feel like he's one of those guys who's better in a 5-round fight than a 3-round fight because he tends to feel his opponent out in the first round. Like, yeah, he's had a few first-round finishes, but if you look at his decision wins and losses, he tends to feel people out in the first round.
Well, he'll get a shot at a 5-round fight here.
Yeah.
And he's definitely going to have his hands
Take
full.
advantage of it, for sure.
Think he's going to win?
As a fan of his, I would like to see him win, but also being realistic, like not to say I don't like Max, because who doesn't like Max? He's a hell of a guy and a hell of a fighter. I just tend to think that he would be served better at 155 pounds than 145 pounds now. I think 45 is kind of, with him having 2 losses to the champion, there's going to have to be a change of guard, whether it be Ortega or someone like that. That's going to have to take the title for him to get him another title shot.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think Max is better suited at 155. I'm kind of surprised he's still sticking around. This is an important fight for him because if he loses this, then that's going to be 3 in a row.
Yeah.
And there's going to be some questions about him moving up, I'd say.
Yeah,
because like you said, he's not getting back to that title, especially if Volkanovski winds up beating Ortega.
Because then that just it's just a shit situation he's in. You know,
he's 5'11" as well. I mean, he is taller than a lot of lightweights.
Well, and people will say, well, he lost to Dustin Poirier at 155 pounds.
That wasn't
I don't
really
think
155.
Well, and I don't. Yeah, exactly. I don't think he really actually committed to being a 155 pounder.
No, he couldn't have. That was just he fought at 145 and he didn't cut weight.
Yeah.
And what that means, folks, is it's what he weighs outside of the cage when he's walking around.
Well, I don't think he weighs 155 walking around. He's a big guy.
No. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that the difference is if you're fighting at 45, you're going to walk around smaller than if you're fighting at 55.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, it took Dustin Poirier a year, 18 months to fully bulk up to the size that he is now.
Yeah.
Like, he's not the same size he was at 50. You just can't be like, oh, I'm not going to cut weight. Now I'm that's what we mean. It's not a true 55er. So he's got to take time. He's got to put on. He's super skinny, super tall. He's got plenty of room for some muscle.
Yeah.
And I mean, he could eventually go up to 170 if he wanted to. He's got the frame for it. It just depends on how much muscles slows him down.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
how much that fucks his game up.
Yeah.
But I like him at 55. Now he could shut us both up with a win here.
Well, I don't necessarily think that shuts us up either, though. Like, I think if he wins here, he's supposed to win this fight. Let's just be honest.
I just don't. I don't see him. What does Volkanovski get fighting him again?
Nothing.
Unless it's way down the road.
Exactly. Nothing.
And I can't hate on that. He fought him back to back. It's not his fault that the judges
fucked him. Yeah.
You know, if Max had won, there would have been a third one.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. But I like him at 55. I expect him to win here, though.
Yeah, me too.
I think it's going to be a close fight.
I think he wins, but I'm not counting Kattar out whatsoever.
No, he's a live dog. His boxing, we'll see how that is. I expect it to be mostly a stand-up war.
Oh yeah, this isn't going to the ground. Yeah. And both these guys have hella good chins too. So I'm very curious to see how this goes.
Now the co-main event is a couple guys past their prime, but I'm still pretty excited about.
Yeah,
we've got Carlos the Killer Conduit versus Matt the Immortal Brown.
Yeah,
and
it's
any
good.
fight.
Well, you know how last
right?
last weekend we had the Nickelodeon game. This weekend we have the History Channel.
Oh man, Carlos has been out for a minute.
Yeah. Well, this fight was supposed to happen actually a few months before, and then COVID fucked it up.
That's going to be a barn burner right here. I'm not sure who I like.
I think Matt Brown is a little bit more in the tank than Carlos Conduit.
I would think that he might. I do like that this is a 3-rounder. I don't know if I'd want to see this at 5 just because these guys are.
But then again,
I'd rather have him go all out for 3.
Matt is coming off a KO loss to Baeza. And I think Carlos is coming off a sub-loss to Chiesa.
He is.
So, I know both guys kind of in the same situation.
I'd
almost like to see this be just a fucking go at it, non-stop war for 3 rounds where both guys at the end take their gloves off, throw them in the middle, and call it a career.
I'd be happy with
win
that
or
too.
lose.
They're a couple warriors.
Yeah.
This should be a great fight.
Yeah.
And there's really nothing on the line here but, pride and who's the better man. These guys are nowhere near a title shot, and that's fine. It's a fun fight. But
both guys are also know where they're at. Like they're not two of the guys that go around saying, "Oh, I'm still going for a belt."
No,
they're just doing this because they love
retirement.
it. Yeah, they do it because they love it.
That should be a great fight. I'm looking forward to that a lot. We've got the return of the eye poker on this card.
It's been a while, man. It went 2.5 years.
Man.
He had that situation where he had that flesh-eating bacteria, and then he went septic, I think.
He did.
Yeah,
I
so
heard.
like
It sounded pretty serious.
that sounded pretty serious. And then obviously, luckily he was
Santiago
able to.
Ponzinibbio.
Yeah, luckily he was able to.
Good thing he
from
recovered,
it.
of course,
Yeah.
absolutely.
But we've been waiting for him to see him in a while.
It's been so
man.
long,
Jeez.
people have probably forgotten that he's
They took
literally
him out of the
eye-poked the
rankings.
hell out of opponents in, I think, every fight I've seen.
Every fight, yeah, without
It's
a doubt.
amazing.
He was ranked, I think, 7th in the division before he was took out of the rankings, which is it's significant because if he comes, all right. So let's just get to it. So Santiago Ponzinibbio versus Li Jiliang, both guys extensive backgrounds in the UFC. Both guys have fought some of the best in the division, had some mixed results, but
It was Li Jinglang that did that egregious eye
Oh,
poke from
yeah.
on top, wasn't it? Where he went like
Yeah.
2 knuckles deep
Yeah, that shit
in
was
old boy's
bad.
eye.
That was bad.
Yeah.
That shit was rough. And then he got fucking tooled by Neal Magney.
He didn't even poke. He just left it in there, remember?
He got tooled by Neal Magney a couple months ago, too.
He did.
Remember, I
wasn't
think he
feeling
stopped him
sorry
in the
about that.
second or something like that.
I wasn't sorry to see that. This would be a good fight, but I don't, as a fan, I don't really care for either of these guys, but they're both pretty decent fighters.
Yeah.
I don't know who's going to win. I don't really care. Hopefully
think
they manage to not
Ponzinibbio-
eye poke the hell out of each other or gouge or
I think this is Ponzinibbio's chance to really put his name back into the
yeah,
conversation.
look, he's good.
though.
He
like
could go
he's a good
somewhere.
fighter. Yeah.
I mean, we
Eye pokes
kind of
aside.
poke fun at his eye pokes. I mean, semi-serious, poking fun at his eye pokes. But you know, he does have some egregious eye pokes on his record.
Yeah.
But
Ultimately,
he is a good
though,
fighter.
he has had some good knockouts.
Yeah,
so
he's got some skills. He could make a splash here in the division if he wins this. I believe this wasn't the original fight. I think there's a COVID fallout.
Oh, word.
There's so many of those. I quit paying attention to each
Yeah,
one
it's
because
tough.
you can learn one and then that one will be done too by the time it gets there.
Yep.
But that's a good fight ultimately. Joaquin Buckley makes his return. On
Yeah.
this card.
Very strange. Over the weekend, we also saw James Krause said that the UFC doesn't want him and Buckley to fight.
Yeah, they've been going back and forth online,
Yeah.
video quite a bit. Gym drama there.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, I think it's just that with that knockout, the 2 knockouts that Buckley had back to back, the UFC, I think wants to let that marinate maybe a little bit more.
Perhaps so.
You know?
Think he feels some pressure to score some highlight knockout here? You got to be
See,
careful not to do that.
That's what I was just gonna say. Is like you got to be. That's a fine line to like ride because ultimately, when you fight these better guys, there's not going to be a chance to always get a highlight reel knockout.
Who's he fighting?
Don't know. No, I'm just kidding.
Alessio.
DiCiro. I'm sorry.
I don't know who that is either.
DiCirco? I don't know.
So I don't think that's one of the better guys. But
Well, no, I'm
Jason
just
Krause
saying-
is one of the better guys.
I'm just saying in general, like
James
when
Krause.
when you keep stepping up your competition level by level by level, there's not going to be opportunities for those crazy knockouts like there's going to be in these smaller level fights. You know. So, I like Buckley here, though. I think he gets it done.
Considering we've never heard of his opponent,
Yeah,
it's hard
sorry,
to
buddy.
hard to break that win down any other
Yeah.
way. But Buckley's looked like a killer in his past 2 fights.
Yeah, I mean he had that loss to Kevin Holland.
Yeah, but
And
there's
then
really not a
since
lot of
then-
shame in losing to Kevin Holland because
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Since then, he's
Shit.
got 2 back-to-back KO wins and 1 KO of the year. And still works at CBS. So what's up?
And that's all the that's the main card on ABC right there.
Yeah, that's a big thing. It's real big. I like
Yeah,
it.
there's a lot of opportunity for these guys, especially a guy like Buckley, who, like you
Yeah,
said, is still
who, like-
working his CVS job, and he's got a
Said
lot
because
of.
he loves it though. All right.
Hey, no, that's cool. I'm not. Make your money, man. Shit. It's not like the UFC's giving you that health insurance.
Yeah,
Fuck.
True.
So, yeah, he's probably got way better benefits.
True. Honestly, probably.
Like, yeah, keep it, man. But that's a big opportunity for him to shine. I don't know if his opponent is the original opponent or if it's another short notice thing, but he's making a pretty quick return, and I'm certain the UFC's hoping for some highlight reel shit here.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Hoping.
All of these fighters on this main card, though, are action fighters, with the exception of, Alessio here, who we don't know much about. The other 3 opponents, for the more established names, are still,
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of action
They're all
on this
huge.
card.
See,
It'd be pretty funny if we get a bunch of wrestle fucking and decisions across the board, but I doubt it. That's how the UFC goes
Derek Lewis
sometimes,
stand in front of each other the whole time.
Right. So what about this Wednesday card now? The Wednesday card had a better main event
that
in
would
Leon
strengthened
Edwards.
the card similar to what this card on Saturday is, but
fighting Chimaev.
yeah,
And then Chimaev gets the Rona,
the
and then
Coco.
he's done.
Yeah.
I found it odd that Leon Edwards really offered to fight anybody to stay on the card, and the UFC's like, no. But we did kind of touch on that a little bit last week.
Yeah.
But
Here's the thing: is ultimately the UFC wants to see that fight. They want to see what they have in Hamzat. You know what I mean? Like if he goes out there and gets beat, then it is what it is. If he goes out there and wins, the narrative continues. You know what I mean? They have guys like Darren Stewart and stuff like that who are already like pretty household names that train with him, are going out talking about him in a whole bunch of interviews. They got him in the UFC game already. He's stock to them, and it's rising if he beats Leon. It falls if Leon goes in and loses to Neal Magney, and then he has to fight Neal Magney, someone who's, don't get me wrong, I love Neal Magney, but he's 32 years old and
he's not in the position Leon Edwards is, who right now is considered top 5 title shot.
Both those guys, Chimaev and Leon, are either because that's the same thing. Is if Leon were, although I like his want to fight because he hasn't fought in so long and everything, but he's also got to think he's also a win away from the belt, you know?
For sure. Well, that fight's completely off the card, and the co-main event of Michael Chiesa versus Neal Magney gets promoted to the main event. So that's now they bumped it up to 5 rounds. Also,
5 rounds, I like that.
Yeah, I like that for that fight. It's a good
That's
fight.
It's a tough fight. Yeah, 8 versus 9 in the division, so they're splitting hairs already. You know what I mean?
And they're both good fighters. Neal Magney he's had his ups and downs, but he's beaten some world beaters, and he's lost some he definitely should have won.
Weird fights, yeah.
Chiesa, I dislike intensely, but he's a good fighter. I just don't like that dude. I really hope Neal Magney just kicks the shit out of you. Sorry, Chiesa. I'm not down. I'm not untrained, Chiesa. I'm just sorry. Good fighter though. You got skills, man. He's got that jiu-jitsu.
See, I think that's what he's going to have to do. He's going to have to be able to take Neal down and control him, because I think Neal is way better on the feet.
Yeah, Neal can piece him up on the feet is what I was thinking too. And Chiesa's looked great since he's gone up to 170. I mean, he's definitely where he should be. Quit effing around down at 55.
Yeah, 55 was terrible.
That was not a good plan, and I'm glad that he's done that for his career. I think he's going to be much more successful up there.
He's coming off 3 wins.
And he's on a streak. He's looking good.
I think Neal had 2 back-to-back last year. Maybe 3 also. But yeah, both these guys are kind of at a turning point in their career. Both have been around for a while. And this is like, I wouldn't say their last hurrah, but if they're going to get to a title shot, they got to get it. They got to go now. You know what I mean? Like, the time's running out.
It should be a good fight. One of my favorite fighters, Roxanne Modafferi, is going to be on that card. Vegas local these days.
Taking on Viviana Araújo. Sorry, I fucked your name up, but she's good too. I've seen a lot of her fights. Is she more of a striker or more of a jiu-jitsu?
Well,
she's actually she's pretty good at both.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. I think she beats Roxy. She's had some mixed success in the UFC. I think she's 7-1, but her 1 is against Jessica Ai, who's kind of held the key to the title shot with Shevchenko. So I think both these ladies need this right now, like both of them.
Well, I'm picking Roxanne Modafferi because it's literally impossible for me not to pick Roxanne Modafferi. I think she's awesome as a human being and a great fider.
Yeah,
who's made some improvement. So, I'm really hoping she wins.
I like Roxy, but I've had this conversation. I don't want to.
No, we don't need to rehash it.
Yeah,
but
I don't think so. She could do it though. She's a
surprised
live dog.
You before.
Yeah.
She has surprised you before. Now there is a fight down at flyweight that I like a lot on this card that I'm surprised is so under the radar. But we've got Tyson Nam versus Matt Schnell, and that's a great fight. Yeah, I'll
So you
hit
want
this
that?
right here. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes no sense to me. We're talking literally the second fight at the bottom of the prelims.
Yeah.
We're talking about two guys who are fucking
I think
ranked flyweights.
this could be up on the main card.
Yeah.
This would be a great fight.
This could
These
be
guys are,
the main event of the prelims.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't understand what they're doing. Like,
It's just typical Dana White shitting on the flyweights.
we're talking about a 9 versus 13 matchup.
He likes the champ now, at least. Maybe eventually the shine will come up. But yeah, they're ranked fighters, 9 versus 13. They're both action fighters.
Yeah.
Schnell's a young gun. I've had my eye on that kid since he was on the TV a long, long time ago, before he even made it in the UFC or really pro. And I don't think he's still got a lot of potential.
Yeah,
Tyson Nam is a little bit older, but he's good.
Yeah,
he's real good.
he's been in the mix. You know what I mean? He knows what it takes.
He does.
That's the thing, is like both these guys. That's why I don't get this. Why are we the second fight in? I think they should either be the main event of the prelims or the first fight on the main card. Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I agree. That's one of my favorite fights on the card.
Ultimately, I think. You go ahead. You tell me who you're taking first.
I want to pick Schnell because I like the kid, but something's telling me Tyson Nam's going to win.
That's exactly how I feel as well. That's exactly how I feel. I was like, I want to pick Schnell, but I just feel like I've seen Nam in some big fights with higher level competition than I've seen Schnell win fights. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'll take Nam. All right, so
let's move into some fight announcements. I'm
there's been a lot of fight announcements lately.
Spark this up here.
We got the new year coming in, so they're filling out these cards. Let's go to one that's actually a part of this upcoming pay-per-view. We got Michael Chandler taking on Dan Hooker, which is welcome to the UFC, Michael Chandler. You know what I mean? That's a freaking fight right there.
Yeah, that's a great fight. It's a great opportunity for both of these guys coming right on the heels of the Conor McGregor.
And what a freaking opportunity for Dan Hooker, too. We talked about how his stock we didn't feel his stock had dropped after the Poirier fight, and obviously the UFC feels the same way.
Yeah, clearly. They're putting him in a big spot here with a big name. It's a good opportunity for both of these guys. I like Chandler just because You
think his wrestling will be too much?
I think his wrestling will be a little bit too much, and he's got big fight experience.
We've seen Dan struggle with the wrestling before, too. But we've also seen Chandler get knocked out on his feet before.
I think Chandler clearly feels this is his time.
Oh, yeah. This is his
moment. And I just think he's going to be a little bit too much for Dan Hooker.
I don't want to say this, but I have a UFC conspiracy theory.
Tell me.
How old's Michael Chandler? Like 34, right?
I think he's 33, 34. Yeah, I mean, this is it.
How old's Ben Askren?
The same. 35, 34.
If I'm the UFC, it's going to sound really fucked up. All right? So, just prefacing it with that, and also saying that I'm a huge fan of both Michael Chandler and Ben Askren. So don't get me wrong. This is no hate to either of these guys.
Okay.
But do you think the UFC signed these guys when they're past their prime just to make them look bad and be like, see, we always told you guys that these guys were never good enough to be the champion. So we're going to put you up. We're going to bring you into the UFC. I think Chandler's a little different because he's not coming off of retirement, but we're going to put you straight into the title picture, and we're going to get you fights against literally our best guys. We're going to see if you're really the best in the world right away. And we know you're not anymore because we gave you 15 years of a career before we signed you.
I've thought of that before. I can't deny it. And Dana, if anything, has proven to be a petty man.
You know what I'm saying?
And
like, don't get me wrong.
That.
Because Ben has made tons of money for the UFC. There would be no BMF without Ben. There's like a whole lot of shit that Ben brought with him to the UFC.
Yeah, but ultimately he went 1 and 2,
exactly,
and there's some controversy with his one, with the bulldog choke on Robbie. So I wonder if they do. Because look, I like Chandler. I think he'll prevail against Dan Hooker, and I think if he's smart, he's going to go out and he'll call out Conor, who's likely to win. But I think Conor would destroy him much in the way that he destroyed Eddie Alvarez.
That's what I was thinking too.
Conor's been there, done that with the boxer wrestler.
Well,
And
you know what I
Chandler
think
ain't seen
happens
nothing
though.
like that.
I
So,
think that this Friday is when Dana and Khabib are supposed to have their conversation.
oh, the big meeting.
Yeah,
The big meeting with.
it's this Friday.
I'm sorry. I just think this is horse shit.
Yeah,
on
it
Dana's
is.
part.
It is. But here's my kind of idea of what is going to happen come everything after this interview. I don't think that anything's going to come out of that.
Yeah, let's in
conversation.
case people don't know what we're talking about here.
Okay.
Dana White has been bragging about a conversation with Khabib Nurmagomedov ever since he retired.
They're going to have on the first Friday. He's in Fight Island where he's going to convince him that he needs to fight one more time, finish his career 30-0 as the champion, I guess.
Yeah, by fighting Conor.
By fighting Conor
he
or
assumes.
Dustin Poirier, depending on who wins.
Yeah.
Obviously, the UFC wants Conor to win, but I don't necessarily think Dustin Poirier still gets that fight even if he wins. Like, let's just be honest. But if I'm Khabib, I'm just going to laugh in Dana's face and be like, what the fuck you mean?
Khabib
Fight?
has been clear he's not interested.
Well, let's just be honest here. I don't blame him. Just in the same conversation we had with Conor McGregor taking this Poirier fight. Why? Like, what more can you necessarily do to put a better stamp on what you've already done?
That's why Conor was never interested in fighting Jose Aldo again.
Yeah.
Why?
Why?
Why
Starched him in 13 seconds.
Yeah. I mean, Nurmagomedov basically toyed with both those guys. They
Yeah.
each had their little moments. Conor won a round.
And
Dustin
then
had a
Poirier
moment.
almost choked him out.
Yeah, he had a
but,
moment
like,
with
yeah.
a submission.
Yeah.
But otherwise, no, it was
was
ass kickings up
shutdowns. Yeah.
and down the block. There you go.
So why? See, if it was the GSP fight and wasn't about the lightweight title and it was about 170 and all that shit,
Especially
completely different. Completely different.
Yeah.
But when we're talking 155 against Conor for your belt and your legacy,
Why would he willingly hand that over to Conor and give Conor the opportunity to avenge the loss, destroy his whole
legacy
of unbeaten? Like, that's the whole thing. It's not like people be like, oh, he sucks now. Just the whole unbeaten thing would be done and gone. And that's so important to him. I think this is absurd. There's no way.
I think the only fight that gets him out of bed is GSP. I don't think
that's
the
happening
UFC wants that. Like, let's just be honest.
GSP doesn't sound like he wants that. Why does GSP want that fight?
He
the
just
fuck
wants
has
to
he got
test
to prove?
himself.
Yeah.
Ultimately, he wants to
But that's
cement
it, though. That's
himself
the
as
only
the GOAT
fight.
himself. Yeah, honestly, it really is the only fight that I think gets Khabib out of bed is GSP.
It's not happening. I would be shocked if we're eating our words here after this, but that'll be it.
But here's what I think is going to happen ultimately in the lightweight division. I think that on Friday they're going to have that interview. Khabib's going to be like, "I'm done, Dana. Cut it out."
Yeah, he's trying to get.
He's
going to
hand his belt over, and then they're going to make the lightweight title on the line on January 23rd. And then the winner of Hooker and
Chandler fights
could
the
fight the winner.
I see that. I don't mind any of that, really. So,
But the only caveat to this is I'm also have heard through the grapevine that there's going to be a fight booked with Justin Gaethje and Charles Oliveira, which
I heard that.
I would think ultimately would hold higher praise as far as who would come out as the number one contender. You know what I mean?
Well, we should have some clarity finally after Dana's just hanging on to fantasy for all this
When
time.
Dana comes back from Fight Island.
Exactly. We had a great 135-pound fight announced with Petr Yan against Aljamain Sterling, finally getting that title shot.
UFC 258, now headlined by 3 title fights. Aljamain Sterling versus Petr Yan, I think, is the second, or the co-main event. The main event is going to be fucking, goddamn it, Israel Adesanya versus Jan Blachowicz.
Yes.
For the light heavyweight challenge.
Then we've got Amanda Nunes versus Megan Anderson.
Yep, for the 145 strap.
Right.
Quick question. If Amanda Nunes wins that fight, does 145 go away?
Is there anyone left in the division of, 3 fighters in that division? I mean,
Yeah, and then Amanda already fucked up homegirl her last fight.
right. There's no, I think so. I think they probably fold it.
You know what I think makes a lot more sense for the UFC if they're talking women's divisions, I think atom weight makes a whole lot more sense than
108
featherweight.
pounds. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of fighters. I mean, look, Michelle Watterson has had to come up from that to get to 115 to fight.
Or think about a lot of the ladies over in one.
Yeah.
That's like a super, super competitive division over there.
Yeah, they have a lot of experience too. They're not just raw rookies.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that makes a lot more sense for the UFC than featherweight does. Like, no offense, but how many women do we see walking around at 145 pounds versus 108 pounds? You know what I mean?
Not enough to warrant the UFC. The UFC showed no interest in it. I mean, they tried with that season, but then they all dropped down to 35, basically.
Exactly.
I mean, you've got Kayla Harrison, but she's scooped up, you know.
Is she, though?
She's not coming straight from UFC, from PFL. She's going to go into Bellator after she wins this tournament again and fuck up Cyborg. That's what I think. And then
I think Amanda Nunes is more attractive if I'm Kayla Harrison than Cyborg.
Maybe.
Because if you really want to cement yourself as like because that's her thing. She constantly talks about being the greatest women's fighter of all time. That's what she wants.
I figured she'd go in and swoop out Cyborg first.
I would think
Nunes.
The only issue is Amanda is not going to be around much longer. Like, people keep talking about constantly how she doesn't really have any reason to fight anymore. No one else is really there. And Kayla Harrison, in all seriousness, I think she has 3 more fights left on her PFL contract with that whole thing that's fallen out with this year and how they've let her go around to other places.
Yeah, she's fucking around over in Invicta now.
Yeah.
I mean, the 145 drop for her was pretty big, but she's good. I mean,
yeah, she looked great.
I mean,
freaking dominant.
Yeah.
So here's the thing: if you're Kayla Harrison, why would you go to Bellator? Why would you take out Cyborg?
You may have a point there. Yeah, I forget that Amanda's flirting with retirement. I mean, they have a baby.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. But I think Kayla would fuck up Cyborg right now.
Oh yeah.
Like, she's improved quite a bit.
I think it would be a rough night for Cyborg against Amanda and Kayla.
Well, Amanda's already proven that.
Yeah, but there's always been that lingering question of a fucking rematch, and I just think it's dumb. I think that Amanda ultimately showed that she could eat everything that Cyborg had and then knock her the fuck out. You know?
Yeah. Well, back on these announcements, we've got another one at 135, Jimmy Rivera versus Pedro Munoz.
That's a rematch. I like that.
I like that, too.
You got Munoz coming off the loss to Frankie Edgar, and Rivera has kind of had some mixed results lately. So
he had such a shine on him. 19-0, I do believe.
Here's the thing, though.
Then he kind of stumbled a little bit against.
Here's the thing. That 19-0 was bullshit because he was 7-0 and showed up to the Ultimate Fighter and lost in the audition.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, really? He lost to.
But it didn't count because it wasn't.
Yeah, but it didn't count because it's not a sanctioned fight. So.
That's interesting.
Wow. Yeah, no. It's a little dicey there for Jimmy, all right?
A little dicey.
And then he got fucked up by Aljo.
Yeah, Aljamain Sterling fucked him up.
He got beat up by Jan. Remember when he... Dude, the Jan fight is a joke, man. Remember that? When he literally won the fight. He won all 3 rounds, but got knocked down in every single round at the end of the round. Bro, every fucking round. Yeah. He won the first round, completely dominated Petr Yan, and literally, with a minute left, knockdown. Second round, same thing. Comes out looking great, dominate, knockdown in the end of the round. Third round, same thing. Gets knocked down all 3 rounds, loses 30-27. In a fight he was winning the whole time.
That's brutal. That shit is brutal.
Like, that's the problem. Is like, I feel like Jimmy's a good fighter, but I think there's levels to this shit. And I think I've seen a lot better performances from Munoz against higher level
Pedro
opponents.
Munoz is a
you know what I'm
quality
saying?
fighter.
Yeah, I think Munoz takes care of business.
Yeah, I think so too. We got a fun heavyweight matchup. Derek the Beast Lewis.
Yeah, get another reschedule.
Yeah, with Blades, Curtis Blades.
February 20th. It's a good fight.
That is a good fight.
I think it's just going to come down to if Derek can stop Blades' takedowns.
Yeah.
That's, like, ultimately where we're going to be with. Like, because don't get me wrong, Blades can strike, but he's not like, I don't think he's on Derek's level in the striking game. And we've seen him get knocked out before when we're with Ngannou. So I think I'm going to take Derek Lewis.
I like Derek in that fight, but we'll see. It's coming up fairly soon.
Yep. And then move on down to a couple of young guns at light heavyweight. You got Johnny Walker taking on Jimmy Crute. That's a fucking really good fight, actually. Like, I was looking at it at first, I was like, it's a little early for Crute, right? But then
He's
I
pretty
was like,
tough.
dude, he's going to fuck Johnny Walker up, honestly, in my
Johnny
opinion.
Walker better be careful.
Like, Crute can freaking, that's what, he's so diverse in his game. Like, he can knock you out, but just as easily he can take you down, choke you out. You know?
Yeah.
And I think this is his coming out party.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Walker's still got some hype on him.
He does.
Is he still at SBG?
I'm not quite sure.
I hadn't heard that he left.
Yeah.
But
But he has been doing that thing where, like, he was at TriStar for a year, then he was at SBG for a year. He's been like he's been kind of, I think, trying to diversify his game, so he's been going to a bunch of different gyms. So who knows if he has one that's necessarily like home gym, you know what I mean? Like, maybe
Yeah.
he's just going around trying to train with as much high level competition as he can, you know. A lot of guys do that.
it's smart.
It is, yeah. Well, we also had some big news. Obviously, we saw Anthony Pettis win in his final UFC fight right before the year ended. Now we see him sign with the Professional Fighters League.
It caught me by surprise. I really thought he'd go to Bellator.
I did too, with his brother being over there
his
too.
brother, and maybe he has a pretty big fight with MVP that he could have taken.
Yeah. Well, I'm telling you, man.
But that PFL, that tournament
That
structure,
$1
that
million.
$1 million.
It's tough to.
I don't know. Is he going to be at 55 or 70?
That's what I was thinking. I was like, here's the thing. If he goes at 55, I think he wins it. At 70, it's a little
70's
dicey because
tougher.
it's him versus Rory McDonald.
Yeah, 7 or
Which I would
55,
love to
though.
see, though. I'll take him versus Rory McDonald all day at 70.
I mean, most of the Sharks at 55 are over in
Everywhere else.
everywhere else. I don't really know what their 55 division looks like, but Anthony Pettis is
It's a hell of
he's had a tough run with the top dogs in the UFC, but his PFL's pretty far down the rank, in my opinion.
the PFL's
They're signing some names.
I was gonna say they put together a hell of a roster turnover this year. That's what if you look at them as much shit I've talked about them as how much I think they're not gonna work out ultimately, they have showed progression year to year, not necessarily in numbers, but in actual quality. Because if you look at their first year. First year they had, Lance Palmer, a lot of the guys from some Bellator dropouts, a lot of the guys from World Series of Fighting, They had a lot of those guys that were able to move on to the tournament, and even a lot of guys winning that tournament, that were way older, way older. Let's just be honest. And then you look at the next year after that, then you start to get in with a lot of those same guys, but with fresher faces. It's still those Bellator level, former World Series of Fighting, some guys from ONE FC, stuff like that. But now, when you start mixing in the higher level Bellator guys and some of the older UFC guys, now we're talking about the plot thickens for them. You know what I mean? They're not just the place where all these lower level guys get a name for themselves. I think now this could kind of be one of those things where we've always said, and I think, all right, this is another thing. With them having Mike Tyson on their board of whatever they have and being a huge investor in them now, I think he could almost use the PFL to channel a lot of the guys that he wants for his retired fighters league that he's trying to do, because now because they're peppering in all these older guys from all these other organizations, and guys like Fabricio, Pettis, friggin' Rory McDonald, even they got that guy from the UFC from the Contender Series, they signed Brendan Longmain. They've signed a lot of guys, and
they've made big strides with their signees.
and they even signed what's her name from boxing, Clarissa Shields.
Clarissa Shields is over
it's
there.
Huge.
Yeah, and they're doing they're doing it right with her from everything that she's saying. I mean, the UFC offered her a contract as well. They wanted her to come in and basically fight Amanda.
Yeah,
she's like, I'm a boxer. I need
give
to
me a
like
couple
learn
years.
some shit.
Yeah.
And PFL was like, yeah, we're going to put you in with people at your level. In some of because she's not going to be in the tournament. She's going to be fighting one-offs.
Yeah.
But it gives her time to grow. It's smart.
I do think they want her to fight Kayla Harrison also.
I don't know. Maybe down the line.
You know what I'm saying though? Ultimately, for their sake and for their dollar, they want her to fight Kayla Harrison. You know what I'm saying? Like they can say that all they want, but and I know if she comes out, knocks two girls out right in a row, 1-2, they're gonna be like, all right, your third fight on our deal. I know this is kind of a step up in competition for you, but we can offer you, $3-4 million to fight Kayla Harrison, and we'll make this huge pay-per-view, and it'll be on probably, instead of New Year's when they do the $1 million tournament, maybe that's the main event of the tournament.
They could do something like that. You never know.
You know what I mean? It's a prize fight. She's got a big enough following to where she'll be the main event no matter who she fights. If she fights Kayla Harrison and you mix both those fan bases, you could sell some pay-per-views.
You certainly can. We'll see what happens with them, but
and they're already on
my
ESPN
opinion
too.
Shifted a little bit before. I didn't think they'd make it out of this pandemic, but
I didn't either.
It looks like they're gonna.
Sounds like it. And I mean, they're on ESPN also, so they got the eyeballs on them. Can't forget that.
So we had BKFC also make a big announcement here at the start of this year. Now, we knew that they're doing an event on Super Bowl weekend, and we knew that Paige VanZant was going to be making her debut, but now they've come out and they've given it a name. They're calling it Knucklemania.
Knucklemania, yeah.
In reference to WrestleMania.
Yeah.
It is headlined by Paige VanZant, and now they've signed a contract. Her opponent is Britan Hart, who is a pretty seasoned boxer / bare knuckle boxer. I'm kind of surprised they're giving her someone of that caliber.
We talked about this.
For people who don't know, but Britan Hart, I mean, she's 4-4-3 as a pro boxer, okay, which that's not a great record. Okay, you're not going to go anywhere in boxing with that, but that is a good amount of professional boxing fights, and she's 1-1 in bare knuckle. With her, she lost her debut as a split decision to the champ Beck Rawlings. Okay. Then she came out and just won her last fight at BKFC 14. And Paige, look, I like Paige, but she talks about striking's her strong suit, but is it boxing? So I don't know, but she's got her hands full with Britan Hart.
Yeah, it's going to be tough.
That's going to be tough. But we've also got a co-main event, which, it has a sentimental feel to it. It's Chris Lieben versus Quentin Henry. And Lieben just announced his full retirement from MMA like about 5 or 6 months ago. And now this is his final fight, period. Like this is his retirement from combat sports. He's going to be in this co-main event. Quentin Henry's pretty tough as a bare knuckle fighter. He's no joke. So I'm hoping Chris goes out with a win here. But
yeah, me too.
Lieben is
Wait, so the fucking title fight got scrapped again?
Oh, and Nam, I forgot. No, the Dat win.
Dat win.
Yeah, is actually the co-main event. I'm sorry, that's the third one.
I was about to say, I was like, damn, bro.
No, Johnny Bedford versus
Johnny Bedford.
Dat win.
Yeah, that's a good fight. I like
that should be the main event. But I get why you're giving Paige this money.
Yeah.
So that's the co-main event. I misspoke. But Chris Lieben's retirement fight, we hadn't talked about that at all.
It was on the main card.
So yeah, that is, and that's it for him. So. He's
Good
not fighting a pushover, so he lost his last one to Dakota Cochran, but he looked pretty good in bare knuckle prior to that.
Yeah, he had a knockout in his debut, right?
Yeah, but he's no young man.
No.
So hopefully he can go out with a win too. But it'll be interesting to see the hype that they can build with a catchy little phrase. Now look, bare knuckle's going to have Paige out doing the talk show circuit, and now they have a catchy name, Knucklemania.
Knucklemania, yeah, for sure.
It's smart. I think it's kind of
Super
cheesy,
smart.
but let's see how it blows
It
out,
is
man.
what it is, though.
It is what it is.
Yeah, they're just trying to make some money.
I respect it. They're trying. It's a good idea.
It is good, yeah.
Let's see how it pays off.
I don't know if the matchmaking's very good, though. That's
Dude,
what
Paige could
scares
get her
me.
ass kicked by
She
Britan
could,
Hart.
dude. It could be sad.
Like-
Could be a good old flusher down the toilet moment.
Dude, it's not. It's just not the same thing, you know.
Nah.
That I think that experience level, even of just 2 bare knuckle fights, is pretty great. When you haven't been in there before, it's a different feel. It's a different thing. It's way faster.
Yeah.
The cage ring thing is smaller. The minutes, you start right at the middle. There's no feeling out and walking around and doing your little bouncy
Well, that's the thing, is I just wish they maybe would have done a smaller level fight on a main card before they gave her this.
I seriously fully expected Paige VanZant, because they signed like 26 flyweights or something. I expected her to fight a girl with absolutely no experience in bare knuckle, just like her. I mean, yes, experience outside, but no.
Yeah. But you also have to look
So,
back and
here we
think
go.
she does have a win over the champion at her weight class.
She does.
So
I don't know. It's exciting. I like it. I'm definitely going to watch the card. It's $29. It's probably cheaper if you have the app like I do. I'm paying the $4. I don't know.
yeah,
I don't know about the deets, since it's their big, like a tentpole event, you'd say.
yeah.
But we'll see.
Yep.
That's the show, folks.
Yep.
Thanks for tuning in. Happy New Year to everybody.
Happy New Year.
As usual, if you're new to the show, you can find us on Spotify, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, anywhere really you get your podcasts from. We're on the radio on WBUZ 95, radio.net, and Orange Radio app. You can get all this information on our show at one handy location.
SWATmade.com, where you can head over there, click our gear button, buy yourself a nice t-shirt, maybe a sweater for the winter. It's kind of cold out there, you know. And, support the podcast.
Keep smoking, everybody.
Peace.
Peace.